Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Barclay Hagan. I am the Director of Client Care with OnPoint, and today we have Mike Pazinski, who is going to present on Spectrum T&M changes. With that, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Barclay. And you can see my mouse moving around the screen here?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm coming through okay, voice?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So good stuff today. We're going to cover the common questions that we get, whether it's in implementations or in the call center, the clients have when they're processing T&M, and also tips and tricks, because these can make a huge difference to help you, stay on top of things and get things out, as efficiently as you can. Specifically, we're just going to go through pretty quickly the T&M invoice process in Spectrum, and then we're going to talk about changes to T&M invoices under different scenarios. I wouldn't worry about taking notes. We're going to make recordings of this available. The main thing is the concept and the flow, all right? All right, quick note about setups. The one main thing that we always stress around setups for T&M is on the job. So I'm going to pop over to this job called Branson Hills. I've got him set up to demonstrate this morning. And what you want to make sure of is that for T&M jobs under properties and under T&M billing setup, that you have equipment, material, and labor levels set. They don't even have to be exact or right. They have to be in there. And the reason is if they're not, your transactions will not flow to T&M and be part of the billing file to process those bills. These need to be in there. Incidentally, when we do new implementations, we have customers make these defaults on the customer so that they pop in here. And then if they're different for a specific job, you can, of course, change them. Okay, enough of that. Let me pop back over to webinars. Okay, we got through the must-haves, and so now let's go through processing, the processing and then the changes. So in my example here, on this project, I've got some costs in there that have already flowed through accounts payable and through payroll, all right? So the first thing that we generally see most people do to process T&M is to go to T&M and go to reports, pre-billing, and to just get a view of what's ready to be processed, all right? Tips and tricks, if you've got some large jobs or things you're monitoring perhaps weekly, don't hesitate to set up save selections to look for the specific things you want to. I'm going to pop back over to the standard template, but these save selections can be very, very helpful. If, say, every week you want to check to see what's in a certain job or what ran through AP or something like that, set up save selections. Make it easy on yourself. In this case, I'll type in my job number. Everything's looking good, and I hit preview. And again, this is going to tell me what's ready to, well, should tell me what's ready to be billed. 21042, 21042. So as I look at this print preview, I can see that under mobilization, I've got payroll time, a certain number of hours there with the billing rates. I'm sorry, with the extension of cost, not the billing rates. And then I've got a materials invoice, and I've also got an equipment, I've got an AP invoice. And that kind of would raise a red flag. Should I have equipment cost coming from accounts payable? Well, in this case, I'm saying, yeah, maybe it was a piece of rental equipment we're directly charging to the job. The reason you want to do this here is once you get into a billing cycle, if you want to add costs, there's a little extra work to do that we'll cover later. So it's so important to come in here and do a quick overview of what's about to be processed before you pull it into a cycle. So what does that mean, pull it into a cycle? So I'm starting the process now. I'm in T&M, data entry, and I'm going to do a summary billing selection. And in this, I'm going to give it the job number, and my dates are fine, and everything's looking good. I'm on select, and you can see right now I have 5 jobs with 32 transactions in my billing cycles. When I hit continue, it'll flip over to 6 jobs with so many so many transactions. If you want to review this, hit the pull down and hit your job and look at your billing detail. Tips and tricks here. Let's just say that, I don't know, payroll overhead came over or burden came over and it shouldn't have. If you need to remove a lot of things at once, you can hold down your control key, your shift key, and just arrow down and delete. Be very, very careful when you do this though. Delete is permanent, all right? Deselect just unselects them, so now they're waiting as unselected billing transactions for the next cycle. Just make sure you understand that distinction. Important tips and tricks are how to manage this. So now I've got this in my cycle, right? And another tip and trick, stay on the hotkeys if you can. F3 is save and close, all right? I've got my little function guy set funny on my keyboard. F3 is save and close. My function keys aren't working. So I'll just say, I'll hit cancel here. Actually, I should have escape or cancel there. All right, so now I've pulled into my cycle. The next thing we generally see people do is printing the detail billing form. This is an internal process for the moment, and it's allowing you then to look through and see what's in your system that's currently being processed. Most folks will do it by cost type and then date, so you can see what's hitting your different cost types by date. So I'll expand this, and it's going to look very similar now. For equipment, I've got the 1AP invoice. For labor, here's my labor charges by date. All right. With totals, retention, if there was going to be any. All right. So now a lot of companies will print this and give it to whomever reviews, and so that they can redline things. Mark this up. Don't bill that. This should be this rate. You know, the things that happen every billing cycle. That's the intent of doing it at this time. If there are changes, and I won't show this to you, just burn into memory. If you've got a few changes and they're one-offs, you can go into modified billing and change specific line items, all right? Let's say in a different example, maybe billing rates had changed or there were wrong rates. You can change your labor billing rates across the board for this particular invoice here, and same thing with equipment billing rates and also with your markups. All right, so one-off, just in and out, or global for that invoice if you want to change a lot of lines. The next step then is generally people will print either the detail or phase billing forms. We just printed the detail. I'll print the phase billing form, and they'll print this as backup. So 21042, I want the current billing. In this case, it's just a different report of the same data. Now I'm getting a summary by phase. I've got 100 mobilization, I've got labor and materials, and then 200 clearing. I've got some equipment and some labor that I'm charging out. All right, so companies will print this or the detail report, or if you've got modified versions, to back up the invoice, and then they'll update. And I'll tell it 21042, and it's showing me the T&M, and burn this into memory, the T&M billing. It's about to be updated, giving me a chance to change the invoice and the GL date, and then I click update when I'm ready to do that. I hit continue. I look at my journal, and then good work habits you always archive. And now this is telling me I've got an unposted AR invoice and to use the sales journal to complete that. Some of you may not get that, and that's because you don't have your system set to only update printed AR customer invoices. All right, so that's what we did. We basically processed our T&M invoice. We reviewed it. I showed you how to make changes, and then we updated it in T&M. And at this point, it's sitting in accounts receivable customer invoices waiting to be printed and then updated. And here the little rascal is, all right? It's this one. Okay, we've got to print them and then we can update them. And then boom, we're done. Now, let's say that I'm looking at a cheat sheet to make sure I cover the important stuff that I wanted to tell you about. Let's say we've got changes, right? If you try to go into data entry customer invoices and hit that reverse button, it's going to say, wait, this thing started in T&M. You have to go back to where it started to reverse it. So it would just take you there. I'll take you there directly though. We'll go to T&M, data entry, and we're going to reverse billings. Okay, give it the job, and it's billing 1 in this case. Another tip and trick, a lot of times the billers won't be aware of the GL closings or what period they're currently in. So if this is for a prior date, a lot of times, we'll always tell them actually go back to the controller and confirm the date you should reverse it on. In this case, it's the original date. All right, so I'm going to hit continue, and it's telling me again, I've got a credit now sitting over there in AR. It's going to go alongside of that original invoice, and it kind of burn that into memory, and we'll come back to that thought in a moment. Very, very important. When this invoice was reversed in T&M, he remained in the selected invoice transactions file. Excuse me. So if I were to go to data entry, if I were to go to T&M reports back to that pre-billing, and I were to look at 21042, and let's say I wanted to look at unselected transactions, I would not see what I just reversed. All right, they're going to be in the selected transactions, and that can be good, and that can be good, and that can be bad. I need to go to my standard template for my dates. 21042. This can be good and bad. Where it's good is, let's just say that the grand total was not going to change, but maybe something had to be reclassified, or you had to change a memo or something real trivial on an invoice, but the total does not change. Well, that's real good, because all you have to do then is go back to T&M, to data entry, and then make those changes and modify billing. Again, the total's not changing, just verbiage or something that you might want to do. And then from there, then you can print your form and re-update it. Now, when you do that, remember that the totals didn't change, right? So what a lot of people will do in those cases is, so that the AR customer record doesn't get all muddied up, you can actually go into accounts receivable data entry, customer invoices, and now you'll see that we've got the original invoice and we've got that credit. If on this new one that we're about to process, that total doesn't change, a lot of folks will come in here and they'll actually delete these. And that's an admin function. That just keeps then the muck from going through that customer record. All right, that's something you'll discuss internally. Does that work for you? And then the right people with security would be able to delete those. Okay, so that's an example of when a reversed T&M invoice going into the selected file is kind of convenient. Well, let's just say in a different scenario, you posted it and then somebody realized, oh, we hadn't updated some accounts payable invoices that really need to get billed. Well, that's fine. Our situation right now is that we're in T&M and we're in the billing process. What we have to do is we have to go into summary billing selection and we have to deselect that invoice, okay? In other words, send all of these transactions back to unselected. And then of course we post what's coming in from AP. Now they're all mushed together in the unselected. And then when we select them, they're going to be all together in that next invoice, all right? If we don't do that, and we have the originals that are selected, and then we add the AP, those AP invoices that we need to get in there, we can do that, but when we select those additional AP invoices, they'll come into a billing cycle, but as another bill number. So in this case, we would have bill number 2, because this is the second one, bill number 2 for the original ones, and then bill number 3 would have those additional AP invoices, and that's generally not what you wanted to do. That's not why you reversed it. So you would deselect, you would then give it the job and all that, hit continue, deselect, add whatever transactions need to be added through normal processing, and then basically start over, all right? Select it and start over. So we talked about the total scenario, something existing changing, and also if you need to add to what's there. So that's really, in our experience as end users, and then when we're working the call center or working calls and support calls and consulting gigs, these are the big rocks. We get through this, and then it's a matter of, what are your processes? Okay, Barkley, have there any questions popped up?
We do have one question, and the question is, what about T&M change orders?
Okay, I'm going to assume, forgive me, that these are change orders on a fixed price or a unit price billing. Okay, we've got a fixed price job, but now we're doing a T&M change order, which is pretty common. Okay. Couple things. One is the system has to know which phases are going to go to the T&M file. In other words, when the guys are working on and the people are working on the original scope of work, we don't want to bill that through T&M, but when they're working on this change order, we do want it to go to T&M. So one thing that we'll do, and I'm going to pick on I don't know that he's not T&M. I'll pick on this HCSS heavy bid job. The first thing we have to think about is set up phases that have instructions to go to T&M. So what is he talking about? This particular job is set as a unit price. So the phases, if I pop into one of these phases, they're told to use that job default, use unit price, okay? Oh, excuse me, allergies. What we have to do is for the phases on the change order, we have to create new ones. And when we do those, and we'll just kind of be creative here, if that's creative, change order 1. Here's the labor. We have to tell these phases, don't use the job default. When you code to me, you're T&M. That's the first thing that has to be done, is get those phases in there and make sure the folks in the field know to code to those for the change. Okay. A lot of people will have templates set up here or a job where they can copy phases, all right, because this is an exception. But so there's ways to expedite this and streamline it, but however you do it, you need to get those phases in there. Okay, so then the phases are in there. I'm going to cancel this so I don't muck up that job. And then normal processing occurs. Now it's the end of the billing cycle. You've got your schedule of values with that unit price or fixed price billing. Now you need to get the change in there, right? Well, you'll have the change request that you created, all right? And it's going to have these phases that we just talked about as the ones associated with that change. You will also have gone into T&M billing setup. Actually, you had done this initially. I'm talking about it now, but this is one of the first steps. On that job, you're going to tell it that there is T&M, and maybe there are markups or add-ons and fees, But here's the key. The billing method here is not going to be AR invoice like the default. The billing method is a change request. So we're saying, create a change request. Everything's the same, except we're going to bill it through T&M. So here's where we're connecting the two. Notice I've got my rates in here and everything's good. So that's been set up. Now, when you process that change order, so now everything's flowing, you're processing the change order, and I'll flip back over to this rascal to do that. Here's where the difference will come in. I need to be in T&M. When you're ready to update that change, I'm going to update T&M billings. Now this is that other job we're talking about. This is just for an example. On this job now, everything is the same except the price type will change to change order. We'll change that to change order, and then we'll tell it what that change request number is here that we created. So this is where the difference becomes, is when you update that that T&M billing for the T&M change order on the fixed price job, we get to the screen, you'll make the price type change, and then you'll indicate which change here, and then you update. Now, what does that do for us, right? The change request then price will be updated with that T&M total. So let's say that T&M total read $20,000. That'll update to the T&M price. I'm sorry, to the change request price. And then you'll process that change request like you do all the rest of them. So we're very consistent now. We quickly attach it to a change order, and then we attach that to the schedule of values when we're ready. And then that will add that $20,000 to the schedule of values so we can bill it. If this interests you, I realize, there are a few steps to it. It flows though, and it's a lot faster than doing this manually, as well as taking a chance on mistakes. If you're interested in this and you want to walk through, give us a holler. Glad to walk you through it, show it to you even in your sample data that's relevant to you. Okay, Barclay, were there any other questions?
It does not look like it.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're doing these to help companies grow and transform into what's next as everybody changes and all companies change. If you have any topics you'd like to see, please let us know about it. Happy to present them. And with that, Barclay, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. Like Mike said, thank you for being here, and please let us know if there's something else you'd like to hear about. We can be reached at 877-213-3860, or to keep up to date on new resources and upcoming events, you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we look forward to working with you, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Barclay.
Bye-bye.